Hi, I have a lemon body, and this is one way I cope with it. Because things can be kind of wild over here. No one's going to be looking for that. Quality of life improvement. Oh, hi! Welcome to Sewing Your Studios. I am Jo, and this week we are turning this into this. I have some thoughts about it. Current me has already finished the project, but I wanted to walk you through the whole process of tricking out my mobility aid bag. It's called a Flipstik. It's a cane that turns into a seat. So you essentially turn yourself into a human tripod. I like this because it's very portable and really discreet to use. I bring it with me when I'm going to a concert or somewhere I'm going to be standing for a long time so that I don't pass out and hang out in the bathroom for half the show, which is often what was happening. Quality of life improvement from this, which is really nice. It was about $100. It came in this bag, and I don't really want to bring a purse and this bag, so I've been using this bag as a purse and everything just getting jumbled in the bottom. Also, it's a cane, so it's touching the floor, and I don't always have wipes with me to clean the rubber nubbin on the bottom. I don't love putting face masks and stuff in there when this thing has been on the floor in public. So having separate sections of the bag to help keep it organized so I'm not like digging through for my wallet. I don't need to take the whole Flipstik out to get my wallet or my earplugs. Again, normally I bring this to concerts. Now I wanted to make myself a custom Flipstik bag, purse, whatever, since I got it, and the thought of making it from scratch, I just keep putting it off. Though now that I've done this whole project, all I want to do is make a from scratch version that's going to be more sturdy and durable, because I have some qualms with the material the bag was made with. But to be fair, I wasn't expecting a bag at all when I ordered this. I really didn't want to deal with measuring the outside band, because when you're making a 3D bag, this happens with my Ramona Flowers bags, the like round purses, is you have a flat shape, but then the band to make the outside, I hate doing the math to get that to happen and lining it up, and I feel like I always mess it up, even though I can just over measure and then trim it to fit once I'm attaching everything together. It's not that big of a hassle to do that, but the thought of it just kept making me not want to touch this at all. So this week we're working smarter, not harder. I would like that to be the theme of 2025. So let's pimp my bag. First things first, let's go over what we need to accommodate for. Like, obviously the Flipstik takes up the most room, is the main purpose of the bag. I have my phone, as most people would. Earplugs, like lotion pot masks. I've been using this little card wallet when I don't want to use my full big honkin' like pocketbook. Oh, and then I have learned I need to bring my little med bag with me at all times. Anytime I'm out of the house. Obviously, if I'm in the house, my purse is also usually in the house with me, so I don't usually end up taking it out unless I need to use it. And by med bag, I don't mean anything extreme. This has my relief band, which helps keep me from puking or feeling nausea, which is something I feel all the time. I cannot express to you how that saved my life while I was in Chicago over the holidays. The most unhinged subway ride I've ever been on. Normally, I don't get sick at all on the subway. I don't live too far from Boston, go on the T all the time. I've been on the CTA before. I've gone to the Loop and never had a problem with it. Same with New York. Taken that train a bunch of times and I've never had a problem on the metro. But something about the train ride from O'Hare Airport to where I was staying. Even my partner, who does not get motion sickness at all, was feeling kind of queasy. So I was trembling by the time I got off of the train, because the plane ride also wasn't great. It was snowy and rainy, so coming over the Great Lakes was like a little turbulent. Going home was turbulent the whole time, but like never too intense. And because I had the relief band on, which just looks like a really ugly watch, these condyles touch your wrist. There's this conductivity gel you put on the little metal bits and your wrist, and it's like a little mini TENS unit, which is not comfortable for everybody. I use a TENS unit, like a regular one, for my neck and shoulder pain all the time, so I'm used to essentially electrocuting myself to help with pain management, but it kept the end result of being really nauseous, I'll say, at bay. This is not a Rolaids Dramamine situation. Plus, I was visiting family and trying to like do a little mini vacation, and I didn't want to be drowsy and sick. Like, Dramamine only helps so much, and there's so many side effects with it, so it's not my favorite to take. Anyways, I also have my medications that are like as needed, which is my Ativan / lorazepam is like the generic of it. Anti-anxiety meds, very helpful, fast acting, dissolve under the tongue. Very thankful for that prescription. I was anxious about using it because I was like, I don't want to get addicted. People use it all the time. Only use it when I need it. And my psychiatrist was like, right, so you're telling me you're anxious about taking your anxiety meds. I definitely feel confident about writing this prescription for you. And then actually I need to top up my ibuprofen. And these are little pots I'm talking about that I put my headphones in. Not headphones, I keep saying headphones, earplugs. Earplugs. And then trusty old chapstick, especially in the wintertime in the Northeast. It is, I think, 9 degrees outside, and that's not including wind chill. And let me tell you, it's really goddamn windy out. Yeah, it's not going to be above freezing for the next 10 days, so we're in it right now. Anyways, that's what I mean when I say med bag. And I have regretted every time I haven't had this with me. I was like, oh, I'll be fine. I won't get nauseous. And I absolutely have. And then, yeah, the little card wallet. It's actually one of the style bags I make for my markets. It's one of the mini bag options. I will eventually get them online for those of you that aren't local. But it has my brand name right here. And then it holds cards. I actually probably shouldn't show you what my cards are. So it holds cards. There's a pocket here and then a bigger pocket here. So I keep cash and some Rolaids and some chapstick in here. And then I have 3 cards in the front pocket. So there's more room in these than you would think. Another friend of mine actually stores their square chip reader in here. So that's what I need to make room for. Also a place to clip my keys. And also something I have realized when I am using my Flipstik out in the world is when I go to use the bathroom, which I always have to do. I am constantly peeing. And I'm also an IBS girly, especially when I'm anxious. My main complaint about the Flipstik, which like it's a cane, this is not its purpose, is to do a good job being leaned against something. So when I go to wash my hands after using the bathroom and I go to like lean it on the counter, it always hits the ground. And I would rather not be picking stuff up off the ground in a public bathroom. I really wanted to have a little loop that had snaps on it that I could hold it up attached to me, and also that way I didn't accidentally forget it somewhere, because again it was $100. I didn't have to try to like squeeze it between my knees or something and pretend I was Elphaba. I don't need to do any of that now that I have a loop. And I also actually strayed from my original idea for where to put it, which I will explain why later, but just if you were looking at the beginning footage and were like, wait, I thought you were putting it on the bottom for this, and this reason, I changed my mind, because I'm allowed to. Apparently 2025 is the year of being super obnoxious. I apologize. Let's see, I wrote notes. Are you proud of me? I did the thing where I like did the project ahead of time, thought about what I wanted to talk about, made sure I filmed those clips as I was going. And hopefully it's just a more enjoyable watching experience. Oh, I had a note about putting general flair on there, but I didn't end up liking how it was gonna look with what I would have been using. So I didn't really add flair. The pockets themselves are actually better fabric, like more fun fabric than I was anticipating using. I was gonna keep it all very like utilitarian, but I think that's plenty of decoration. But I'm not saying I'm not going to add more decoration to a future version. My brain's going too many directions. Back on track. Oh, wait, also, the other thing I needed storage for, and easy access, so I was thinking a slip pocket, like a nice big slip pocket, is my handkerchief with a lock. They're just tied together for the convenience when I go to the gym. I definitely only use the handkerchief as like a headband, and the lock is for my locker at the gym. And there's no other reason I would have it configured this way in my purse with easy access. So do with that information what you will. I'm just saying, as someone who has gone to a lot of shows by themselves in cities, or like goes to do whatever by themselves, It is, especially as a woman out in the world, it is good to be cautious. Easy method to keep some distance, and also, look, it's just stuff I use for the gym. Okay, let's sketch some plans, shall we, for this bag. It still feels so wrong flipping my laptop backwards like this every time. I get a little like, I shouldn't be doing this, but it is also a touchscreen tablet, and I have a drawing program that I use on here. As you can see with this rendering, I am an artiste. It kind of ended up looking like a uterus. I kind of just wanted to lay out how many pockets and where they were all going. This bag doesn't have a lining or anything. It's just a front piece, a back piece, and then a band with a zipper that goes around the edges with a strap attached. I did decide I wanted a zippered pocket for the front, and I wanted it to take up as much of the bag surface area as I could. Then for some of the other accoutrements, meaning the keys and then the loop to hold the Flipstik, I played around with some snap tape, and I didn't like it. I didn't think it was going to be sturdy enough, and also the snaps were like not the correct distance apart to be usable for this. So I decided to grab some heavy duty 1-inch wide nylon webbing, which I have 1-inch hardware for. Long term, I am planning to change everything about this bag, so I'm not going to stress about it. And that's also like a non-essential part of the bag. It's just a feature I thought would be really nice to add to it. Then yeah, I was going to add this like riveted punk detail, but then I realized I'm going to have to stitch down the webbing to either side, and it was also going to be such a nightmare sewing this down, and I just lost interest in dealing with it, so I didn't do it. Oops. Oh my god, I didn't follow through an idea that I had. Who is she? Just kidding. That's kind of my MO. It took me 4 months to get this much done, so I'm not going to be hard on myself about not adding the flair I had initially wanted to add. So for the pocket fabric, I had this remnant of starry canvas, like constellation fabric. I actually can't remember if I got this in a remnant pile at Joann's or something, or if this is some of the material I was given that was scrap bits from my friend Aston. Anyway, I have an adequate size piece scrap of canvas that I wanted to use. I should have stabilized it. I regret not stabilizing it. I don't, especially for the outer pockets. Lining pockets would have been fine. Outer pockets, when in doubt, interface, I guess, is the moral of the story. Initially, I was going to make a whole stencil and like make sure everything was super even and measured out perfectly, and like only come in 1/2 inch from the border of the whole thing, and it was starting to stress me out. So I just loosely traced around the face of the bag with some chalk onto the fabric and cut it out, and then use that as a template to cut out smaller versions of that piece because I didn't want full panels for all 4 pockets. As for the zipper pocket, I just put my phone on top and got a decent height I would need for it to fit, and then just cut across because we're not overcomplicating this. I did find a zipper that was narrow enough that I wasn't going to have to cut much down. Initially, my plan was to not line this and just fold over all the edges with iron. I even found my like metal French curve and this other like hemming tool that I have for doing straight edges and curves. It was just going to spend forever pressing, and I don't know why I was going to do that, but for the zipper, there wouldn't have been a good way to handle the raw edges of that, so I trimmed it down with my pinking shears and used some bias tape to cover each end just to like make it look neat so there wasn't raw zipper tape hanging out all loosey-goosey. Then after I attached and top stitched the top and bottom zipper pocket face, that's when I decided, you know what, just kidding, I'm for sure just going to line all of these and flip them right sides out. Now, you need to leave a gap when you're doing something like this. You stitch them right sides together and you leave a gap so you can flip it out. If you have a zipper, you don't need to leave a gap, but you do need to leave the zipper open, which I did not do. I got it handled, but every time, I make fun of myself constantly for this, and yet I still do it. And the lining I'm using is just scraps from, I think, Nurse Scrubs. It's like heavy quilting cotton from the uniform store I used to work at. It was just going to get thrown out otherwise, so it seemed like a good use of material. Once I flipped everything out, I did use a turning tool. But once I flipped all this out and started pressing it, that's when I realized, like, oh, the zipper pocket can also be a slip pocket now that it has this. Here's where I kept turning the camera on, but I kept not hitting the record button. So if I didn't capture any of it after I stitched everything right sides together and turned it down, I just flipped everything right sides out, used a tool to get the seam allowance to like push out a bit so it wasn't folded in on itself, and then I just pressed it really well. Then, since the slip pockets, I made a total of 4 pockets. One is the zipper one. The other ones were just slip pockets, so I had a straight top to them. Because that wasn't getting stitched down to the bag, I did go over it with my sewing machine just to close the gap, because that's where I put the gap, because it's easier to turn out and stitch over a straight line than a curved line, I have found. Then I played around with the placement of everything. One of the pockets I kept shorter but wider, so that was going to have to go towards the top of the bag. So that was going to be on the inside. So I figure since the stitching was going to be so far up, I was going to put the zipper pocket, which would cover most of the face of the bag on the outside, that I would stitch the inner pocket on first. I did that for both sides. Stitch the inner pocket in first. Oh, my lens cap just fell. So yeah, the zipper pocket could go on the front with the wider pocket on the inside. And you can see one of the lines of stitching, but like, no one's going to be looking for that. It's fine. Again, we're not overthinking this. Then yeah, the pockets for the other side, like the outer and the inner, were pretty closely matched. One was slightly smaller, so that went on the inside. Stitch that on first again, and then flip the bag inside out so I could stitch. I find it easier to apply like top stitch pockets like this, or anything you're top stitching on, if you like are working from the inside. I don't actually know how to go about it any other way, but just if you're like, why is she attacking it this way? I don't, it just makes more sense to me. I did for sure stitch over the strap at some point, so I had to undo that. I knew it was going to happen. It's actually not very heavy duty webbing used for this, but again, I can't complain. I wasn't expecting a bag to come with a Flipstik. It was just an extra little thing. It was when I was flipping it in and out to attach the pockets that I realized how like not particularly sturdy this bag actually is. It's a single layer of waterproof canvas. It's like rubberized on the back, and by back I mean inside, which makes sense because like if you have the Flipstik and you're out in the rain or something, it's supposed to only be there to hold the cane when it's folded up. This was the point in the project where I was like, ooh, I desperately do in fact want to make my own version from scratch and use like carpet samples and Decoville light interfacing and maybe some fusible fleece or sewable foam. Like really upgrade it, and also just interface the pockets on the outside. I don't know why I didn't just do it. I'd be less grumpy at this bag and its aesthetics if I had in fact just interfaced it, but I wasn't even gonna line it. We're meeting ourselves where we're at. A helpful quote I kept seeing a lot last year is like, you can't hate yourself into being better, or like, you can't hate yourself into liking yourself. We're leaving the self-hatred behind as much as possible. Listen, it's still gonna be there a little bit, but that's not like the main voice in my head anymore. My mental health journey is a completely different conversation we can talk about if you're interested, but a bunch of you have also commented over the months and years that like I seem better with myself than I used to, because I didn't realize until I started going to therapy how uncomfortable it is when someone is tearing themselves down. So thank you for bearing through all that with me. Also, hey, here seems like a good time to mention the thing I am most thankful for. Those of you that support me over on Patreon, I get to do what I do because you're here. So thank you so much for hanging out. Because I had to like factory reset my computer, I lost all my presets. So hopefully I have like a fun, cool new graphic that I've worked on for the Patreon names. But just, I need you to know that I'm very thankful that you are here. I'm thankful that everybody is here, because things can be kind of wild over here. So I appreciate the company. So once all of the pockets were stitched, it was then time to attach the webbing with the, I was gonna do a D-ring, but I found some O-rings that are also 1 inch. Attach that down for my keys. I also tried to position it so that I was stitching over where the bag like original strap was, just to reinforce it a bit, because again, it's a little flimsy. Then this is where I realized the loop to hold the cane when I am standing in the bathroom washing my hands and don't have a place to put it. I was gonna put it on the very bottom. I didn't like how that was gonna look. It was gonna be a pain to sew. And also I noodled with it to see, wait a second, if it's at a different height, if it's higher up, not only is that gonna keep it from like drooping or like leaning and maybe knocking into people, because I didn't want to like trip myself or somebody else. I thought, what if I just put it on the other side, mirroring where the O-ring was, reinforce the other side of the strap, and then have the cane be able to hang a little bit off the ground. It occurred to me I was just gonna like the look of it a lot better. And if I like buy a shirt at a show, I'm not gonna wear it, but then I also am stuck like holding it the whole time. This loop would be the perfect thing to like wrangle it. Oh, also, I forgot. I was interrupted with a Burt delivery in the middle of, well, not in the middle of, I was almost done filming the entire video, but I didn't film me attaching the cam snap because I did that after I filmed all the rest of this. Well, everything was charging, but this is what I ended up with for that like holder loop. It can just stay just like this. So it seems useful enough. And I think this hanging from the bottom would have driven me nuts. So that's what that ended up looking like. Bert demanded snuggles, so I took a break from working on this when he ended up on my lap. Anyways, the other benefit to having it higher up a little bit like this, something I was in my head about as far as using this is I didn't need it the whole time, right? The Flipstik. I kind of use it intermittently. For example, I was at a concert and there were 4 bands playing. We were there for the headliner. I really enjoyed the first band set, and then the second band I did not enjoy so much. And I find I'm less likely to get to a state where I'm close to fainting if like my adrenaline's going and I'm real excited. But when I'm not enjoying the 30 to 45 minute set I'm watching and I'm annoyed with the crowd, it's harder to like keep my blood pressure up. If my Flipstik wasn't folded up in my bag, packed away at my side, I would have used it. But I felt like I had to go into the bathroom to take it out of the bag because I'd be alarmed if I was standing at a show and someone pulled this thing out. So I didn't want someone to get freaked out or security think it was a weapon, even though like I was holding it like a cane to get in just so that security saw it, because obviously it's a big metal thing crammed into a bag, like could cause some damage if I were to use it like that. But if someone doesn't know what it is and I'm just like flinging this thing out next to them, it's a little unruly unfolding it. So I kept going in and out of the bathroom, and that's because once we got into the venue, I was like, I don't need this right now. Let me fold it up and put it away. But I also did that in the bathroom. But once I have it out, again, I don't need it out the whole time, but once I have it out, if I feel like I'm going to be using it back and forth a bit, having it hanging from the loop via the handle on the top of the seat, laying flat, like not in seat mode, in cane mode, it's just infinitely more accessible this way. So I am actually really glad for it being such a pain in the ass to do it in the other spot on the bag I initially wanted to do it, because this is a much better outcome for something I hadn't really anticipated being useful. So we have made it to the end. I am dealing with the thing where it's wintertime, and even though I'm sleeping with my humidifier cranked to 11, if I talk for too long, my throat feels really raw. I'm noticing since I got my tonsillectomy, there's sensitivities I didn't used to experience. I get into coughing fits if I eat too much ketchup or like something really vinegary. And also there's a weird panic that happens when I'm about to swallow anything carbonated. It's like my brain has forgotten how to swallow, and then I'm just gonna die like that. I don't know what that means, but those are some fun side effects from my tonsillectomy recovery as an adult. I can still see so much scar tissue back there, and it's been over 2 years. Is it 2022 I got it done? I believe so. So we're coming up on 3 years. But yeah, I'm much more likely to get an irritated throat. Though granted, I had a sore throat basically every day of my life to some extent before that, but I knew it was my tonsils. So like things just get more dry now. It doesn't hurt nearly as bad. And it's just kind of like a raw irritant rather than like swollen infection all the time. So still would choose to get the tonsillectomy. Anyway, we don't need to go down a physical health conversation either. Well, I mean, we're talking about a mobility aid. So, to some extent, hi, I have a lemon body, and this is one way I cope with it. I hope you're all having a decent start to the new year. I feel like having an awesome kickoff to January is like a tall order. So, today is January 5th or 6th when I'm filming this. It's Monday. Yeah, Monday, January 6th. Why does that ring? Oh, that's why. That's why that date rings a bell. I think that's gonna do it for me. I will see you back here with another video in 2 Fridays. Thank you so much for hanging out. All of the words are jumbling in my head right now. I haven't talked to anybody at all today, so you're welcome.